Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I kept my abortion a dark secret for over 2 decades. I grew up in an abusive, alcoholic household. It was always my dad's way or the highway. My opinions were unwelcome. I came to believe that not only what did I have to say not matter, that I didn't matter. I got married when I was 21. We had been married for a little over a year when we had a precious 7-month-old baby girl. My husband was between jobs, and I became pregnant with our second. When I told him the news, he was furious. He got angry, and we fought. He argued, how in the world were we going to support another child right now? Then out of the blue, he insisted that I have an abortion. I was in shock and disbelief. I called my mom for her support, and to my surprise, she sided with my husband. I felt rejected and abandoned. I was scared he would follow through with his threat of leaving me and our child, so out of fear, I called and scheduled the appointment to terminate my pregnancy. I wish it could have been harder to arrange at the hospital, but because it was legal and covered under our insurance plan, I went through with it. The day of my abortion, my baby was not the only one that died. I now despised the man I once cherished and adored. Abortion seemed so accepted by society, but afterwards I was full of shame and felt so isolated and alone. Our relationship and once happy life together spiraled downward. We numbed our pain with anything we could. Cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol were now a part of our life. My husband became a workaholic, unavailable, both physically and emotionally. On the outside, I remained cool and collected. After all, no one could know the secret I kept buried deep inside. No one could ever know the horrible sin that stole my joy and kept me from being the person I used to be. A few years before my abortion, I followed a dream and went to nursing school to be a pediatric nurse. I had worked for 2 years in hospitals and at Stanford in the children's cancer ward. Shortly after my abortion, I quit my career as a nurse. I'm with you. I didn't know why at the time, but since then, I have learned that it is not uncommon for post-abortive women to move away from something that subconsciously reminds them of their loss. I spent the next 22 years suffering in silence, riddled with shame, guilt, and self-hatred. There were countless nights I cried myself to sleep, longing to hold my baby. I wondered what our child would have looked like or grown up to be, and my husband and I drifted further and further apart. About 12 years ago, I went to an Arizona Right to Life event at my church with my best friend. The talk left us inspired to do something and also saddened us as the speaker's message was about life and all the generations of children lost to abortion. My shame surfaced as it did so many times through the years, hearing about the sin of abortion and the message of life. I knew this time I had to muster the courage to tell my secret. So we stepped into the chapel to pray, and I told her about my abortion. I expected rejection, pity, and disgust, the way I felt about myself. Instead, I received acceptance, non-judgment, and sympathetic love and support. I couldn't believe it. She hugged me, and she told me she loved me. That night, something changed in me, and I started to heal. The next month, I was on my way to California with another friend for a Rachel's Vineyard Healing Retreat. It was there that, through God's grace, that I started to find my voice through acceptance, forgiveness, and love. My husband attended the next Rachel's Vineyard Retreat. After a rocky 25 years of marriage, we were able to grieve the loss of our child together. It wasn't until I finally realized my part and took responsibility in the abortion that some of the walls started to come down and we could work on forgiveness. Hallelujah. I am not alone. I have heard many stories like mine. There are millions of men and women and teens suffering in silence. approximately 43% of all women before the age of 45 will have had an abortion. An unexpected pregnancy can cause anyone to act out of fear and panic. What we need is compassion. We already judge ourselves. God knows our hearts, even though so many have been hardened with denial and pain. I used to say I was pro-choice. After all, how could I say I was pro-life? I would be a hypocrite. But God kept putting people in my path to help me stand up for what I truly believed in my heart. God bless you all and all of our lost children. I have now named my son and recognized his sacred dignity as a beloved child of God. I believe that I will be reunited with him, Matthew, someday, and this gives me great hope. I will no longer keep him a secret. So that society says men and women suffer no negative psychological effects after abortion. I know differently. That's why I'm telling my story and why I am silent no more. Thank you.